Ryan King and Sammy. Say hello, Sammy.
Wagwan.
We've got Ryan King here from Making Money Simple. We're going to go over his approach to investing, his investment portfolio. He's got a couple of portfolios with a couple of the big boys that you'll know about, and we'll get into it and we'll go over that. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Neil.
How you do? How's the knee?
The knee's good. The tape's off. Marathon in a few weeks, so hopefully it pulls through. Then I'll be resting for 6 months.
Absolute bloody animal, this guy. Fair play to you. I managed a couple of kilometres, I reckon. So, how long have you been investing to start with?
9 years now.
And what was it that inspired you to start investing at the beginning?
So I essentially accidentally got auto-enrolled into the workplace pension in 2017, and I read loads of books during that year as well. So in 2018, it prompted me to get started properly looking into things, and I ultimately just didn't want to work a job for 40 years and have no way out. So I thought investing could give me a way to sort of retire earlier, become work optional, all those sort of buzzwords that we use.
So that's interesting that you say that, because just a year after auto-enrollment, you realised the power of investing. You were using your pension, obviously, but then you decided to use a stocks and shares ISA. So did you then, after only a year, did you look at your pension and move out of default into something more aggressive?
That's been about 2 years. So in 2018, I read loads of books. I'd made loads of mistakes. So I opened up a account first in my high street bank, Halifax, rather than a platform. I then used a GIA rather than an ISA. I then was trying to pick stocks. I was paying high fees. It was like £12.50 a trade. So after making loads of mistakes in 2018, it was probably early 2019 where I finally settled on my approach of using global funds. And that was then when I had an ISA with Vanguard in a global fund, and I switched from my default fund in my standard life workplace pension at the time into a global fund as well. And then the rest has really sort of just been similar and flown from there.
Fair play. And because you have now then got all those years under your belt, I assume the majority of the growth from your portfolio has come from growth rather than contributions now.
So do you know what? I actually recently crossed £200,000.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I posted a video about this the other day, and of that money, about £73,000 is gains. So about 60% of it is gains from the market. And I guess that's a benefit of now. I've been very lucky, to be fair, with the returns. It's been a crazy bull market, but also I've now been investing for nearly 10 years, and that is just the power of sort of the longer term picture, I guess.
So a 10% gain now, if we were to see 10% in 12 months, you're making 20k.
It's crazy, yeah. Which is more than I made when I first started working in London.
I know.
So it would be mental, yeah. But that's just the power of, it is really hard, because at the time, it's so slow at the start. Every £100 here and there seems pointless. And then you zoom out, nearly a decade, and it's like, wow. And people might have more than me after 10 years or less than me. It doesn't really matter. I think as long as you're just focusing on getting as much as you can invested each month, the market and compound interest will take care of the rest.
And it's not normal, is it, for, what were you, 18?
I was, when I first started my workplace pension, I was 20.
Yeah, so most of your mates probably weren't doing the same thing, were they? What differentiated you? What made you do it and they didn't? Yeah,
I was always interested in money. And I did economics at uni. I was always reading books, a lot of books on the stock market and investing in 2017 and 2018. And I essentially just didn't want I always was good at saving, but I know that inflation destroyed savings. And I also just didn't want to do this corporate job for 40 years. So I think the combination of those two things got me to look into it. And I don't actually really know why I was so interested in it. It's just lucky. Because I know most people don't get into it until much older, but I was very lucky that I stumbled across it and took an interest in it, and I got in it at a good time, and now the gains have been so good. So it's probably a big element of luck, but it's one of those things where I say you've got to be in it to win it. So you've got to take the action, and then hopefully the gains will come, and they have for me, so I've been lucky that way.
No, fair play, bud. You have got to do it. Most people don't. You were, especially back then, I think I recently saw a stat that around 17-18% of people have stocks and shares ISA, so back in 2018.
About 3%, I think.
3%?
Yeah.
I mean, that's wild that you did that.
I think actually the growth of them is because people like us are talking about them openly online. But back then, and actually partly the reason why I started Making Money Simple in 2019 was because there was no UK content. Everything I actually learnt really was from the UK personal finance subreddit, and from American YouTubers, and from reading a lot of American books.
And they all went in to be shillers, didn't they? Andre Zick, Graham Stephan.
Yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad guy, he's always calling for a crash. But it was all those people that got me understanding about investing and that sort of stuff. But now there's much more of us talking about it from a UK perspective, which is good.
Yeah, fair play. Right, okay, let's get into it then. Let's start with trading 2 and 2 and have a look at your portfolio. So this is your trading 2 and 2 portfolio. Take us through it then, bud.
So I've essentially got 3 different accounts on Trading 2 and 2. My invest account, my general investment account, I've had really since I think 2019, 2020. I've had it for years. You can never contribute to multiple stocks and shares ISAs back then, so I always use Vanguard. That's my bigger account. But in here, I've essentially just got the VWRP, the Vanguard FTSE World. I mean, the gains have been pretty good. I don't really put much into this.
48%?
It's 46%.
46%.
Yeah, £2,000 nearly. And I've got this experiment I'm running, which is a bit of fun, but like 5 different pies. And would you believe it? The global one is, other than the S&P one, are doing the best, which is the point I was trying to prove. But all the other niche ones I picked are not doing as good.
You know what? When I first started
Fun.
investing, I had the exact same thing because I got my kids a junior ISA. And I just put them into an all world, and I was doing stock picking at the time. And after a couple of years,
Just stick to this.
they doubled my bloody returns.
But then I've also got so I moved back to the UK from Australia in May. So I started a brand new trading 212 stocks and shares ISA in June. So I've made 3 contributions of £500, and I've got 1 pie in here, and there's 2 investments. And this is actually a little bit different to all my other accounts. So I've got 2 ETFs. I normally just have 1. The first one is the X-Trackers FTSE All World, which is currently the lowest fee global fund on the market, for 0.07%, although it only actually came out in April, so it's very new. And my other one's actually this small cap fund. I essentially want to have small caps in my portfolio, so I added in that fund as well, and it's an 80-20 split between the 2.
Okay, cool. And I saw you talking about X-Trackers the other day, saying that it's going against your normal principles for investing into ETFs. Tell us what those principles are.
So I've got 2 principles I've gone against here. The first one is I never actually normally invest in an ETF when it's brand new. The reason being is that when an ETF's brand new, it's got less of a track record and the spread fees might be higher. I went against it with this one because the fee is so low, and also the ETF's growing very quickly. It's nearly already got $100 million, in the ETF, so the spread fee should be lower. But technically, I would say for most people, waiting for a year or 2 before actually using a new ETF is a bit better to do, just because you want to see the track records there and make sure it's actually tracking its benchmark well and all that stuff. The second one that I broke is that this small cap fund is actually an active fund. One of the mistakes I made when I first started investing was using active funds. They were really high fees. They underperformed a simple index, global index. But this one is a little bit different because Avantis, and this is a bit more technical, but are a fund manager that essentially use sort of a more data-driven, systematic approach to try and pick stocks that will beat the market.
You're using trading bullshit there.
I know. This is very unlike me. But the reason why I picked this as well is because I wanted small cap diversification, and the other small cap fund, WLDS from iShares, is actually a similar sort of fee. So I just thought I'd take a bit of a punt, go for this active fund that's trying to pick small, and the reason why as well, to be more transparent, is this invests only into small cap value stocks, and over the last sort of 100 years of investing, there has been a small premium of using small cap value. So to be completely transparent, I could just have the X-Trackers, that's all I actually need, and we'll go through my other portfolios, but I really only have 1 global fund in most of them. But for sort of a bit of fun and see how it did, I've also added in this small cap value fund in this portfolio as well.
So it's a bit of an experiment and you're just having to play around. But are you aiming to hold it for years?
My plan is just invest into these 2 ETFs, 500 quid a month for the foreseeable future, and hopefully this stocks and shares ISA will be one of my biggest accounts in a few years' time.
And tell us about, I heard you also talk about the fact that you're going to be exploring better than ISA. So just give us an overview of what that is and how you're going to implement it.
I have implemented that. I haven't actually posted it anywhere yet. That's on IG. So, okay, I literally done this on Friday. So the story is I lived in Australia for 4 years. I built up a general, there's no stocks and shares ISA equivalent. So I built up a general investment account with Vanguard Australia. It got to $60,000, which is about £30,000. And I'm selling it over 2 tax years to essentially make full use of my capital gains tax allowance. So a bed and ISA, it's a bit of sort of stupid jargon, but it's really just where you move money from a general account that's taxable into an ISA account that has tax advantages. Unfortunately, because I couldn't use an ISA, my money was in the general account, and I've now moved half of the dingo dollars back, so there's about 15 grand in here, and I literally invested this all into VWRP on Friday. So this is very, very new, but I've got 1 investment. It's Vanguard's FTSE All World.
On Friday, and it's up 8%.
£8.
Oh, £8.
That's the stock picker.
Yeah.
No, yeah, £10 now. But yeah, so my plan, and the reason why I did this with IG is because I actually wanted to separately track this money. It's a bit weird and it's probably irrational, but I think if I just consolidated that into my Trading 212 account or Vanguard account, I would lose sight of the gains, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
My gains have essentially gone, because if you look at the investment, it shows that my gains are only £8.
Yeah.
But I know by keeping this pot separate, I know that I made about £7,000 or £8,000 worth of gains while I was in Australia, so I can just track it easier. But once again, IG, similar to Trading 212, 0 commission broker. There's also a low-cost global fund, and that's what I'm going to do. I actually did work out the maths as well. The way that I'm doing this now, even though I've sold 15 grand worth of shares or ETFs, I'm only actually due to pay roughly around 50 quid of capital gains tax. Once I've taken into account my CGT allowance of 3k,
yeah,
and I should be a basic rate taxpayer this year, and there's some allowable expenses I can deduct, like the trading fee, it means my gain for this tax year is really small. and then I'll do the same again next year. So in practice, I could hopefully move back around 30k worth of investments that took me 4 years to build up, and only probably pay a couple hundred quid in CGT. So that's sort of the power as well of, if you are in this position of using GIAs and moving money across, just think about how you can do it more tactically to save yourself money.
Yes.
If I'd done it all in one go, I probably would have lost, potentially 4 figures to tax.
Absolutely. So the key thing here is, if you're doing better than ISA, let's give an example. Say you got £10,000 you put into the market, that turned into £13,000. You can sell all of that and you're at the cusp of just having the £3,000 gain. So as long as you don't go above that £3,000 gain in a year, you're good.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, very good. So obviously we'll put a link to all of these brokers below if you want to get into it. So the last portfolio you have?
One, the bigger the better. Size does matter. This is my biggest account, so it's Vanguard UK. And I actually started this stocks and shares ISA, as I mentioned. It was like end of 2018, start of 2019, after making loads of mistakes and losing loads of money. So I've got just over £60,000 in there, and you can see really how much of it is gains. I haven't contributed to this since 2022, or since the start of 2023, since being in Australia, but it's still compounding slowly in the background. The gains now are just massive, and that's the power of time in the market and just not panic selling, not messing around with it. If I click into that though, all of the money is in a fund, which is probably my favourite fund, called the FTSE Global All Cap Index Fund, which is a bit of a mouthful, and it's not available on the previous brokers that we showed because it's a mutual fund rather than an ETF. But it's
just explain what a mutual fund versus ETF is.
The main difference is that ETFs are listed on a stock exchange, so you can buy and sell them during the day, whereas a mutual fund isn't. So when you put your order in, it goes through at the end of the day. But what it actually translates to for most people is that most brokers, particularly the zero commission brokers, so Trading12, IG, Invest Engine and so on, only offer ETFs, not mutual funds. So that's why in the other accounts I showed you, I'm using all world ETFs. But because Vanguard offer this mutual fund and it's more diversified, that's why I'm using this. And this fund is slightly higher fee, is 0.23%, but includes over 7,500 stocks. So it's the most diversified possible global fund for me that I can find. So that's why I've got all my money in here.
Yeah, so you're paying a bit more for that increased diversification, but that just makes it easier. So you've got emerging markets coverage, you've got small cap coverage, you've got all the geographies coverage you could want, all the sectors coverage you could want. And in reality, a lot of people overthink which funds to pick. And sometimes that stops people bloody starting, doesn't it? At the end of the day, if they're an FCA regulated broker, if it's a well-known fund manager, if it's relatively cost effective, just put some bloody money in.
I couldn't agree more. I know you use the Invesco FTSE All World. There's other ones, the X-Trackers one. There's the State Street SPDR All Country World Index. We obviously talk about these a lot. I'm always covering them on my YouTube channel. The returns are literally identical over the sort of past few years, and it's likely to be the same. So I would say just pick one you're happy with, whether it's the lowest fee one, the most diversified one, the one that someone you know uses. Just be consistent and stick with it.
Fair play. And tell us then...
My other account as well, sorry, with Vanguard.
Got one more?
So I've got my SIP. So this has about 50k in. So this one's probably a bit more interesting because I opened it in 2022, originally to consolidate my old pension pots in. So I consolidated 2 old pots in here, one with Standard Life and one with Legal and General. And I now actually, this is still active, and I actually make further contributions to this through my limited company. So I still use this Vanguard SIP account, although most of the pot has been built up from old workplace pensions when I was working as a chartered accountant in London. But yeah, once again, all the money is just in one global fund.
So you got 50k in a SIP, you're 29 years old, you'll be able to access that on current rules when you're 57.
Probably 60 by the time I get there.
Probably 60. So you say we've got 30. Yeah, you've got 30 years of growth on that SIP alone. That's going to be worth hundreds of thousands, isn't it?
I hope so. Hopefully millions, but we'll see.
All right, fair play. All right, listen, last question. I know you started in 2018. You just wanted to get freedom out of the market. Have you got any other goals beyond that? I've spoken to you before, and you said that you want to continue working. Is this just around having security? Is it around having that buffer in the background? Are you wanting to move to Dubai and buy Lambos? What's the crack?
To honest with you, I think for now I'm working for myself full time, and I would like to be able to make enough money in the short term to sustain that. My long-term dream goal, to be transparent, would be if I could have a house in England and a house in Australia, because I lived there for 4 years and loved it, and bounce between the two. That'd be unreal. I'm going to need a lot of money to be able to do that. But I think for now, my main goal is actually, my main goal is I don't really know what my goal is going to be for the long term, because I haven't got any kids, I haven't got a mortgage, I haven't got a car. So my expenses are literally at an all-time low, and I'm very much expecting my 30s to be blasted with expenses, and I probably won't be able to invest as much as I'm fortunate enough to invest now. So my short-term plan really is to try and invest as much as possible for the next 2 or 3 years whilst my expenses are low. and then sort of try and figure it out as I go along. And if I can keep working for myself, making money, increasing my income, investing more, that's probably the short-term goal. But of course, long-term, I'd love to, be financially free, travel, all that good stuff that we all want to do.
Well, it's inspiring, mate. Fair play to you, bud. Starting at that age, getting to that point already. You know, it's humble of you to say that a part of it has come from luck. Of course, a part of everything in life comes from luck, but you've done it. You've made the step. You've sacrificed someone that you've earned and put it in there. So great, thank you for that, mate. Now, where can everyone find you?
Making Money Simple on all platforms. And if you're actually looking for the easy way to get started investing, give my book a read, Stop Waiting, Start Investing. Neil's my best marketer for that as well.
I've sold 400 copies of that book on a TikTok shop ad. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll also put a link to that book below, an Amazon link for that. That won't be an affiliate, but it is a great book. And thanks, Ryan, for joining the podcast,
Cheers,
mate.
Neil. Appreciate it.
Not a podcast, YouTube video. Cheers.